Gary,
Ouali.
we're 2 days away from completing on the sale of your property here in Palmer's Green, a place you've called home for 26 years. How are you feeling right now? And what's the one thing you miss most about living here?
How am I feeling right now? Great. I'm feeling great right now. It's taken 2.5 years to get to this place. So we decided to move just over 2.5 years ago. As you know, we went through several agents and it was starting to look like it was never going to happen. Eventually, you somehow, you hit that button by accident, albeit, but you did hit that button. You put a letter through my door. And in the letter, I was getting letters daily from different estate agents and different people telling me the miracles that they could do with my house. And I was on, by the time you got in touch with me, I think we were probably 18 months, 2 years down the line, I was with what was, I was told was the best agent in the area. And if I wanted to sell my house, that was the agent that I should go with. And that was third-party advice. Unfortunately, they were not as good as I was advised, or not as lucky. I don't know. I don't want to badmouth anyone, but they weren't getting the sale, let's put it that way. And one day I came home and I had another letter through the door, which was going to go in the bin, until as I opened it, it had a tea bag in. And by coincidence, I do like a cup of tea, and it piqued my interest. So I read your letter telling me that you work differently and you do this, and you made all these promises that I'd read over and over, probably 1 million times in different letters coming through the door. However, you had included a tea bag. So I had the cup of tea as advised in your letter that said, don't just do this, make a cup of tea, sit down, read this and have a think about what I'm telling you. And I just admired your, I don't know, doing something different. It appealed to me. So you were the one person of all the letters I ever received that I answered, that I did phone up. And I thought, I'll give you a shot. That turned into a discussion about how you work, which was reasonably different to how regular estate agents work, to be honest. And I guess I'm lucky. I've got a lot of American friends. You work very much more in line with an American real estate agent, a realtor, as they would call them. It's much more that way. It's a much more personal service. It's a much more hands-on service. And it's much fuller service in the sense that you take it, you control the whole thing rather than just turn up or let people turn up. You're there. There's a much more personal approach to it. We discussed what you could do. We, myself, my partner, had our doubts but we were able to answer questions. I mean, and this was at 7:00, possibly the same evening, if not the next evening. And we were here for a good hour, an hour and a half of your time, I would guess. And I don't know why you convinced me. I think what I liked was your passion. You are definitely, no one can ever take away from the fact that you are very passionate about what you do. Selling houses is something most people, I'm sure, would think would be uninteresting and boring. You made selling houses sound like it was a job of a Hollywood movie star. You just had a passion for it that was unbelievable, to be honest. I can't imagine anybody else has that same kind of enthusiasm and understanding, and clearly you do your homework. And I'm not just talking about the house that I'm in, which you had done your homework about. You knew its history, you knew how long we'd lived here, you knew what we'd bought it for, you'd done your homework, but you also knew all of the area. You also knew all of the rules, the regulations, how things worked and changed, etc., etc. You really did know what you were talking about. So I'll be really honest, we haggled about the price for a little while. And eventually we came to an agreement, which I'm very glad we did. We actually came down to an agreement that I laughingly thought was ridiculous, because you told me that we would do one price, which was very reasonable. In fact, cheaper than anyone else, in fairness, much cheaper than anyone else, if you sold the house. But if you sold the house for more than the asking price, there would be another price. And I laughed. I did genuinely laugh at you because I thought, well, that's just ridiculous. Nobody's been able to sell the house for 2 years, whatever it was at that time. You're never going to. Both myself and my partner were like, well, he's never going to do that. It's just ridiculous. And I admired your kind of bolshy approach of that you could. And you were determined. You actually were very convinced that you could do that. And in fairness, the price that we agreed if you sold the house for more than the asking price was still cheaper than the agent I was with at that time. So I was in a win-win situation from that point of view, to a degree. Your price, unlike most people, was inclusive of VAT, which when I looked at it was much more competitive, in fairness. So we signed on the dotted line. You were very strict about the way you worked. You wanted us to take the house off the market. Both myself and my partner were not keen on doing that because we wanted to get going. But because of your passion, you had a system. It was clear you knew how this worked. And sometimes you have to take a leap of faith as a customer and just go with the expert. And you're the expert. I wouldn't ask a plumber to come around the house and then tell them where to put the pipes. So in the same way, people think they know how to sell houses or they think they know how to do this, that, and the other. Really, you don't. And it sounds like it's easy to just sell a house because you've sold a child's bike at one time or you've sold this and you equate the things as being the same. They're very much different. So we followed your advice. We took the house off the market for, I think, a little over a month. Maybe a little bit more. In that time, you kept the lines of communication open. You kept information coming our way, telling us what was going on in the area, how this was happening, etc., etc., etc. You also discussed a plan, albeit it was sketchy at that time in the sense that you didn't discuss the whole plan because, you had to wait until you were here, taking photographs, explaining everything. But you discussed that you had a plan, which was, for me, was quite reassuring. There was a goal. There was a purpose to this. You came around with a photographer, as do every agent, but you took photographs that were different, noticeably different. You took drone photographs. You featured things that other people hadn't even noticed. You talked about things like where we are here is very quiet, although it's in the heart of Palmer's Green. It's very close to a school. It's very quiet. It's a crescent to all intents and purposes. It's not a through road in any way. So it has a field on the back, which is fairly quiet, except on Sundays when the football's playing. But there's very little traffic. There's very little through traffic. It's generally very, very quiet, as you can probably hear now. All of these things you had noticed and were aware of and were featuring. You went away. We left you to it to some degree. You took the photographs. You went out and took video of the local area. Drone footages of going above the house and showing what our views were at the back, which are of wonderful green fields. And it is a beautiful view from the back. And it is probably one of the things I really miss from the house, although where we're going is countrified. That the views from here are pretty stunning, I have to say. They're pretty good. And within a week from that, 10 days maybe, you had put the house on the market. You put it on a Wednesday, as I recall. And by Saturday, we had four viewings lined up, which was impressive enough in itself, bearing in mind we've been getting the occasional viewing here and there, quite often people that even I knew they weren't really, this wasn't what they were looking for. On the Saturday morning, you had acquired a 5th viewing, which was quite impressive. So we spent a Saturday pretty much back to back, people coming in the house. And everyone who came in liked the house. Everyone who came in was in a position to buy the house. Everyone who came in had an interest in the house. as it transpired, two people had a very specific interest and a desire for the house. One of which, if I'm correct, were the people who had booked that morning. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the people who bought it? Yeah, I thought it was. The people who actually bought it that morning actually only made their appointment that day. By the end of the day, we had secured an offer at the asking price. Shortly after, we had another offer of a considerably higher offer, I have to say. And our original purchasers, there was a negotiation and we agreed a fee less than halfway between the two. On your advice and on our own, after discussion, they were in a position to buy. They were being fair and we wanted to be fair. They were the first. It just was fair. But we ended up with, as you promised you would do, an offer above the asking price. It would be fair to say that you gloated rather a lot at telling me that you told me so, etc., etc. It wasn't at all annoying, I promise. So what am I going to miss? I'm not going to miss your gloating. I am going to miss the views. I'm going to miss... there are things I will miss about the house, but I will take away 26 years of wonderful memories. I've loved living here. It's been perfect. We've just sadly outgrown it for one reason or another. I have a lot of stuff. And there comes a time when, you have to move on. And that's just simply where we are at. And as it transpired, the house that we were after, we lost for one reason or another, but we found one that's better and wonderful. So all those houses, any of you think, oh my God, we've lost that house. It's our dream house. This house here was the third house that we tried for when we bought it back in 1999, way back when. And when I walked in here in 1999, I knew the minute I walked in the front door, up the passageway, I absolutely knew straight away this was the house. And that's not baloney, that is absolutely 100% true. The same is true of the place that we're moving to. I walked in and I just got that feeling, I can live here. This is it. And I'm hoping that's a good vibe. So yeah, there will be things I miss about living around here and other things, but I'm excited to be going somewhere else. And I take the memories of living here with me that will be with me forever. And I'm really pleased that the two people who are moving in, they're all right people for this house. And I think they'll enjoy it as much as we did and love it as much as we did. They're nice people. And it's worked out very, very well.